Welcome to Krav Life. My name is Paul Simos, and today on Train to Fight, I am going to be interviewing special guest, Mr. TJ Kennedy, founder of Kennedy Tactical. It's going to be a good one. Now, did you know that we've created a special Krav Maga community? It's a community where you can network and discuss everything Krav related with other Kravists from all over the world. And best part, it's free. Just go to mykravlife.com and sign up for the community. And while you're there, be sure to check out our directory of Krav Maga studios from all over the world and find a place to train. So, without further ado, here is Mr. Kennedy. All right, so welcome, sir. How are you doing?
Thank you very much for having me tonight. Pleasure to be here, Paul.
All right. For the people that don't know who you are, can you just give us a quick rundown on who you are and what you do?
TJ Kennedy. I teach combative self-defense and also have pivoted that into film, doing stunts and fight choreography, and also work in security, private security, executive security, and I've been doing all of that kind of together for approximately 20 years.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So, how did you get your start? Like, what? How long ago did you start in? Do you have a martial art background? Like, where did all this come from?
Yeah, the obsession started as a kid. This was my dad introduced me to like Van Damme movies, especially Bloodsport, Kickboxer, Enter the Dragon, Karate Kid for me was a big one. So I just had that kind of like a fantasy about the and I was a young, small, skinny kid. So the underdog who was a skinny kind of, thing that would learn the skills and then become the hero. So as a kid, that was my thing. And as I grew up, it was in high school when I eventually got into Taekwondo, the traditional martial arts. And then fast forward into college, I discovered Krav Maga, and I thought it looked badass. And I thought that that'd be something I wanted to invest my maybe a year and a half before I decided that's kind of what I would dedicate my life to. So then I went away to an instructor course, and kind of the rest is history.
Oh, cool. And where did you go for the instructor course?
I was in Philadelphia. It was in 2005. I trained with Ernie Kirk. We had Michael Margolin and AJ Draven out of the Los Angeles group. And I was teaching at the time here in, I guess now it's Premier Martial Arts. It's Woods Martial Arts and Ancaster. I was teaching at the time, and then Oakville as well in Ontario. And that's kind of where I got my start before I moved on to some of the sports and experimenting with that. But that's kind of trying to give you kind of an abridged version of my start.
Yeah, no, not a problem. And so how long were you doing the Krav for?
Started in 2003. 2005, I went for the course. And then I would say in 2008, I made kind of a separation, not into the Commando Krav Maga. So I went down that kind of route for that. I'll call it a rabbit trail. I went down there for a year or two, and then branched off, kind of had some different experiences traveling and teaching and with the concepts, and then kind of combined with experience at that point, now working on door and nightclubs and stuff. My trade focus shifted, and so I kind of was was fully Krav Maga, and then I added the combat sports, and then in 2009, 2010, that's kind of where I ventured off a little bit to the side.
Okay, cool. And so when did the personal protection sort of stuff, how did that come about?
So I
or the
started
security stuff?
working security. Yeah, I,
Yeah.
I started working security in 2000, and just kind of your body in a chair kind of security. And then in 2004, I started bouncing. So
Mhm.
working in nightclubs and learning that I was pretty good at that job, and it wasn't that hard. And at the time, and some had some dangerous times there, but generally you can keep a cool head and you have good people skills. It's not that hard of a job. Generally, 90% of the time you're standing there doing nothing.
Mhm.
And then from there, got that job. I excelled at the different locations I was working at, and became trusted to do my job and to do a good job doing working security. And from there, got offered. Oh, we just shrunk there. There we go.
Yeah.
From there, got offered better positions and such. And so I was kind of climbing up the ladder there. But when I had when my wife got pregnant with her first child, I thought I need to kind of, I don't want to be a guy that's, and no offense to anybody that is working as a career on door, but for me, I didn't want to be a 40-year-old working door. That just wasn't the future I wanted for myself, both for the risk involved and because I thought, to me, there's more things I want to do and more things I want to build, right? So at that point, I kind of took a step away from that, and I got into security management. So I was working. First, I was working in mobile supervision for a security company, a local one in Toronto, and then I worked my way up there into a site director, where I was managing 4 different security desks at a condiment. It was just kind of, I was just stuck on time, and I didn't really have a lot of control over the people that were hired for my team. So you're kind of stuck working with a team that is maybe not your choice, and it was just really draining on me. It was nice pay, had benefits, which was good for the family. It was kind of like a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday thing. It was turned into a 12, like a 9 to 9, sometimes to midnight, Monday to Sunday type thing.
Mhm.
And I just wasn't happy with it. And so I was applying for some different jobs, and I came across an executive security position, and I thought, what do I have to lose? And I applied to it and went for an interview and got the job, and I was doing that for the last 3 years.
So how is the world of executive protection different from the other stuff that you were doing? Basically explain it to us, because a lot of our listeners don't have experience in that sort of area. Like, what sort of lifestyle is that?
Sure, it's reflective of the rest. It's representative of the security industry in general, which is there's 95% boredom and 5%
Mhm.
chaos. I mean, Byron Rogers is an executive protection specialist out of the States who people might be familiar with. And he was saying to me in a conversation that, people think executive protection is all this excitement and, fast moving, crazy lifestyle and on private jets all the time. And sure, there's like private jets and there's like travel and there's driving expensive vehicles and stuff. But 90% of it is like doing patrols and like visitor access and, putting the car seats in the car for if they have kids, and like taking the garbage out on recycling day. Like, it's a lot of that stuff. And sure, you get to like drive your client to the airport or something, where you get to take their family to school and back or something. But it's like to make out. Now there's different levels of executive protection. Like, are you protecting a businessman?
Mhm.
Are you protecting a diplomat? Are you protecting a celebrity? And so there's different levels of risk that associated with each of those. And so, my experience is in kind of the corporate business world. So there's not a massive, I'm not worried about like an assassination attempt on the day to day. So it's a different level.
Okay. So would those more riskier assignments, would that involve like a bigger team? Is that what happens, or?
Not necessarily a bigger team. You know, with riskier assignments, you'd have to have things to consider, like are you armed? Things like this. And and what that means, if you have to be armed, where are you traveling to? Like, what are the rules and regulations and the laws and stuff where you're traveling to? Maybe you have to connect with local security and kind of connect with them. Like if you're out of the States, for example, and you're flying into Toronto, maybe you want to connect with a local team that is familiar with the area and has experience doing executive protection in the area, and then you can kind of contract out that way. I see a lot of people doing that. A lot of smaller companies in Toronto specifically. They might run clubs or special events, or when the International Film Festival comes, they'll kind of grab on contracts there. But they also really network with people coming out through the state. So it's kind of it's like a network of small business owners, really just kind of working hand in hand to kind of provide services for each other as needed.
That's kind of cool. So how big of an industry is it? Like, is this is it something that's like, are there a lot of people involved in it? Is it just a smaller group of individuals doing this type of work?
I can't speak for America because I'm not really too familiar with the whole. It seems like everything's 10 times bigger down there, anyways. But there's also 10 times the population, so same is true across the board, I guess. But in Toronto specifically, where I was working, like, it doesn't seem that there's a lot of them. It's hard to get. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say, it's hard to get a full-time job doing it. Like, there's contracts here and there. And a lot of, if you're a security contractor, you're fighting for a lot of contracts to provide security for venues and stuff like this. But it's rare to get on as like a full time with a person. Like if you're working for like a Drake or some NBA player or some the CEO of a bank. Like there are positions and opportunities. Some of them just farm out the security to your contract security companies, like your Paragons or your Primary Response or anything like that. But some of them do have like dedicated teams. So it really depends. But in Toronto, there's not that many of them. And if there's not that many of them, then in the rest of Canada, I'd imagine there's not that many of them. But yes, they do exist, of course.
Okay. All right. And so how does your company's Kennedy Tactical, right? Yeah. So what sort of scope or things do you get involved with?
So the training is primarily centered around self-defense for people that would need it, and then use of force tactics for people that would need it. So kind of two major separations there. So defensive tactics, anyone that would deal with that kind of asymmetrical criminal violence, sexual assault, anything like this. A lot of indicabatives were guilty at teaching classes where we set up scenarios. We're like, okay, so you're in a bar, and we're always training for the bar fight, but it's kind of the incorrect way of going about it. Yes, that does happen, but preparing people for the realities of violence and kind of showing them the physical tools and mental tools they can use to overcome it. And then in security, law enforcement context, where you're not trying to cause injury, you're trying to not cause injury, and you're trying to contain a situation rather than rip someone apart. So there's that, and teaching about situational awareness, behavioral analysis. We do touch on liability, so people are making smart choices, but at the end of the day, their safety is number one, right? So we're just trying to teach people to have the appropriate tools in their respective scenarios.
So what sort of, like, being in Canada, what sort of liability issues do you present to your people?
Well, we just essentially we work off of the use of the kind of the general use of force wheel, right? So kind of the level of force is being presented to you. So you're just trying to provide that reasonable force back, right? So just kind of you go like a half step above where that person is. So example, hey dude, or excuse me, sir, depends. Your approach is going to matter in your deportment as well, right? It's your physical presence itself, a use of force. It's on the wheel, right? Officer presence. So interacting with them and asking them to comply. Now, in a bar setting, which is predominantly my experience, right? It's asking them to leave, and they happily go, or they don't. And if they don't, you may have to get them into a physical escort position, right? So again, just being careful about to like wear a mask to escort them yeah, and so you're getting them into a control position, but you're not like take a swat at you. Then it goes to defensive tactics mode where you're then trying to gain compliance again by and it's just this constant shifting spectrum until you get them out the door. So we really just tried to layer them up with some principles that they can use to apply. And, it's kind of a shitstorm, to be honest with you, when you're in those situations. So you just kind of have to do the best you can in that moment, right? But I find that people generally, if they have the correct principles, right, they're kind of a good person. They're going to make the right decisions in that moment.
Perfect. And so through your organization, do you have like a physical studio where you teach this stuff out of, or is it seminars at different places? Do you have do you certify instructors to teach for you? Like what's sort of going on there?
Yeah, so I used to do all of that. I teach predominantly online, mobile now. Obviously, when COVID-19 hit, it kind of changed things for everybody, right? So there's a pivot there. I do mostly kind of privates, semi-privates, also preparing to do some online courses to offer. And then again, we have I was mentioning before we started recording, we had a conversation. I was talking about something called the Gray Man Security Conference, and that's run out of Mississauga. We started that in 2019. And where we have a series of instructors come together to present different skills like combatives, counter custody, tactical communications, social engineering, stuff like this. So we're hoping that we'll be able to pick back up with that. But
that'd be cool.
Yeah, so I guess basically what I'm trying to say is that I'm training more modular, seminar-based, rather than kind of a physical location with like weekly classes you can go to.
Nice. Can you tell us a little bit more about your, I guess, what would be the best word for it, like a symposium or the thing you do in Mississauga?
Yeah, that's basically what it is. So I thought like in 2010, 2011, I thought it'd be great to have like there was an MMA expo in Toronto, and they had all this MMA stuff there. It was like a huge gathering, this big conference. I thought, wouldn't it be awesome to have that for like the reality-based self-defense industry? And that was kind of a dream of mine. And in 2016, 2017, I ran into somebody who came to one of my classes. His name is Boris Malinkovich, and he runs a company called True North Tradecraft in Toronto. And he came to one of the classes, just a really great guy, we became friends after that, and found out that he was into like covert entry, so like lock picking and stuff, quick counter custody, cool things like that. And he had a really extensive security background himself. And so we got talking and thought that wouldn't it be great if we started working together and doing seminars, especially for women, right? We had women's self-defense seminars we're putting on where we do half the time teaching some self-defense skills and half the time teaching counter custody skills. So how to hammer fist someone in the face, and then how do they get out of like duct tape and handcuffs and shit like that, right? So it was a really good fit. And through becoming friends, we had discussions, and I found out that one of his dreams was to present to Canada, because in America there's such a huge training culture. I mean, you can go get your license for pretty much anything. There's like lock picking, there's red team, there's surveillance, there's weapons up the wazoo, there's gun courses here, there, and everywhere. You could probably go become some certified explosive technician if you wanted to. And there are people in Canada that have these skills. There's no real kind of network or community that really that exists like it does in the States. So his dream was to create that in Canada. So we kind of took those two concepts and smashed them together and came up with the Gray Man Security Conference. So the first year we had I was teaching combatives. Boris was teaching counter custody. We had Ace Johnson from Delta 2 Alpha Design at Edmonton come down and teach what was called Hood Rat Arts and Crafts. So, you get dropped, basically in your underwear in some non-permissive environment, and you got to build yourself out a weapons kit. So how do you do that? So he was just showing us some kind of like low budget, low tech solutions.
That's kind of cool.
Adam DeFreitas is a corrections officer and an MMA fighter, and he was showing us edged weapons defense kind of on the ground, and he's the perfect guy for that. Again, not just a he calls himself a ground shark, right? He's a jiu-jitsu judo brown belt, professional MMA fighter, but he's also the guy that's going into cells to take out guys that have shit. They're trying to stab him. So I thought he'd be in close quarters, so he'd be perfect for that. Adam Nasrallah was a former CSIS counterintelligence officer. He came and talked about tactical communications and social engineering, and kind of buttoning up your own security online as well. And we had Chris Mendigma, who's trains federal agencies in use of force tactics, and he was teaching basically single stick tactics. So for security personnel that work with an expandable baton, so kind of would translate that way. Am I missing anybody? Was that 6?
I think so.
I think so. I don't want to miss anybody. Adam, Ace, Chris, Boris, TJ, and there's another.
And so how many did you do it the one time, or how many years in a row did you guys do that?
Yeah, so we did that in 2019. Had an amazing turnout. And then we had it planned for October 2020, but then of course everything got shut down because of COVID. So we haven't done it again. And we've been investigating some online options, or if things open up, to be able to kind of go back to a live training option. But right now, things are kind of up in the air, as you know.
Yeah. Oh,
getting large groups of people is challenging.
Yes. Hopefully we'll be able to do it in next year, because I'd definitely like to come and check that out, because if it's in Mississauga, that's right around the corner from me.
It's a good location. It's a great location, really close to the airport. We have some good deals with like a local hotel as well, so it just works out for people coming and traveling as well.
Where was it?
We held it at a business on Huron, just off Huron, Ontario. So there's a Holiday Inn Express. It's right there, and it's basically you could like walk out that door. It's like 5 minutes and go right to the building.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's definitely really convenient then.
Yeah.
Okay. So where do you want to? You've alluded to some online training stuff that you're working on and all that. Where do you want to take your business? Like, where do you want to take Kennedy Tactical?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to be just trying to put my focus to the online. What I think my contribution is to the combative community that release that to the world. Mm-hmm. And I used to be, I was interested before in, kind of building this big company. Blauer is the inspiration for us all, right? He's just kind of the godfather of combatives. Mm-hmm. And but I've become less interested in that. I've become more interested in preparing my family. They've kind of become my priority as I've had kids. My whole world has shifted around.
Yep.
And, I really want to invest in them and in a small community of people that, like I said, that's why I'm doing the privates and the semi-privates. But I do value the information that I have to share to the general public, and I do think it's valuable information. So that's why the online product. But for physical training, I'm not like certifying anybody anymore, and I'm not putting out instructors and trying to kind of build some company or business that way. People that want to come find the information will come find me, for my family and the people that are around me that I want to provide that for. But other than that, I'll put that kind of the general information online. But the rest, for the secret sauce, you got to come find me.
Oh, there we go. So I saw you on Tim Larkin's podcast, and it was very informative. It was a really cool show. Who else have you had the opportunity to associate with, or train with, or just have discussions the way you did with Mr. Larkin?
Yeah, I'm really lucky in that way. A lot of people that I've reached out to or have just been super receptive and open, and we're really lucky in that regard. We have some pretty great guys in this industry and really good people that kind of serve as good mentors, a good source. sources of information, Tim being one of them. I've just been talking to Tim. It's being fed through a fire hose sometimes. There's a lot of information coming away, but he's just so considerate and such a gentle, gentle guy, and just a really nice guy. I really appreciate Tim. He always has the time of day for you, Tony's another one. I've spoken to Tony on a couple of occasions, and again, he's just someone that just gives you the time of day, and just full of information, like an absolute wealth of knowledge. One of my good friends in the industry is Luke Holloway. I got to bring him to Canada in 2010, 2011, and so on, and we just became really fast friends. And just, just a real fun-loving guy, as you can imagine. If you know, I don't know if you know, you laugh, but you know Luke? Or do you know
no. I've heard the name.
Yeah. He's just he's like a 6'5" Aussie guy, and you can just imagine a stereotypical Australian kind of, just fantastic guy, but just really, really solid in martial arts as well. When I went over to Ireland and England, it was 2012 and 2013 to teach. I got to stay in the homes of some really good mentors. There was Dave, who was captain in the British Army. He was in Essex, where I stayed, and just got basically staying in his home for a month. I just really got to kind of glean lots of great information from him. And moving on from there to Ireland, I got to stay with another gentleman. We toured in Southern Ireland and Northern Ireland to do some combatives tours in 2012. And he had his experience. I don't want to say like what Special Forces unit is with, because I'm going to I don't even know for sure. Right. But he was Special Forces, and he fought, he's fought in Bosnia. And then also after 9/11, he went over and was involved in that. So he had a lot of combat experience, and I benefited that knowledge and experience. So I'm really fortunate in that way to have kind of been able to connect with these kind of people and just be able to, benefit from their lived experience.
Yeah. No, that's definitely. There's a lot of really good people in this industry that, like you said, you can learn so much from, right? And contribute to. So if people wanted to, are you available for seminars and obviously personal training, but are you available for seminars and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. That, I love that. I love that format, actually, because I like to kind of deliver, just kind of some core concepts, just hard-hitting core concepts, like a good 4-hour kind of format. 4 or 5 hours is my favorite thing to do. So you're absolutely open to that. We'll travel within reason. These days, travel restrictions in Canada are what they are, right? So, if there's a workaround, then I'm happy to find it. But absolutely, I'm open to doing seminars.
Yeah. All right. And if someone wanted to bring you in for a seminar, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way would probably be through my personal email, which is tjken, TJKEN, at PM, as in Prime Minister, .me, M-E. So tjken at PM.me.
Perfect. All right, sir. Well, it was enjoyable talking to you. And one day I'd like to get you back on the show where we're talking more theory or something like that, rather than just background stuff. But I'm sure that our audience, they love hearing the how people got into the industry and how it's affected them. All right. So once again, thank you for coming on the show, and you have yourself a great evening.
Thanks for having me. You as well.
All right, good. We're